How's it going, folks? I'm Matt. Welcome to a brand new series that I like to call Meet the Industry. Now, the idea, guys, with Meet the Industry is, of course, we're bringing in industry specialists, organic companies, potentially electronic companies, but companies who are sustainable and environmentally focused. Get that message right. And of course, the first guest today is Jeff from Miicrobial Mass. Jeff, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, and we're going to get talking here in just a minute, guys. I just want to bring up something here. We are not going to be focusing any of these discussions on the garden specifically and what I like to grow in my gardens, but note that everything that we do talk about is products for that specific garden. The idea, of course, with Meet the Industry is to break past that plus 18 barrier that YouTube likes to hide me behind because of my content and help bring the message of organic gardening to more people. So note, you may see some ads in these videos which are not typical to my videos, and I am monetizing them because, quite frankly, I do need to make a few bucks because it does take money to run a channel like this. So that being said, push that stuff aside. Jeff, let's talk about microbes.
Okay. What do you want to know? Let's dive into.
Oh man, I'm so stoked to have you here. This is a topic that I really want to learn a lot about. But let's talk about Miicrobial Mass as a company, kind of how you guys got started and doing what you're doing.
Yeah, so Miicrobial Mass is the product of several years of research and development that was conducted by a couple of microbiologists based in Quebec. So they were really interested in developing a biostimulant product that, they wanted to look to nature to find some of the answers to some of the bottlenecks and challenges that cultivators have. So, it was all going into nature, looking at areas where plants that maybe shouldn't be doing so well, but are, and maybe that has something to do with the microbiology in the root zone or on the plant's tissues, and taking samples. So, for example, they went along the St. Lawrence River where the river is salty and the tide goes in and out, and there's areas where plants are submerged underwater for hours per day. And, certain plants in certain areas just look really green and healthy. And they thought, I wonder if that has anything to do with the bacteria that are there, or, in certain farmers' fields where it should be pretty suboptimal conditions and they're seeing really healthy plants. So they started by, kind of doing this bioprospecting process where they're taking bacterial samples from all over kind of their region and their area, bringing it to the lab, isolating and identifying and playing around with different groups of bacteria and, trying them on different crops. And so, yeah, it was a long process for them. And, by kind of 2018, 2019, it was kind of ready for testing and beta testing. And Frank and I were fortunate enough to be invited to join the team kind of on the sales and the marketing side and communicating with the cultivators out there. So we launched the product in January of 2020, and yeah, it's been very, very well received. So it's going really well. We're having a great time.
What an interesting time to start a company. Well, at least a product like Miicrobial Mass, too.
Dude, you have no idea. Yeah.
The unique challenges you guys must be facing in just working right now to get things out the door. Well done.
Yeah, it's been an interesting year. We'll put it that way.
for everybody.
Yeah.
So the product itself, Miicrobial Mass, why should somebody be adding microbiology into the soil? What are the specific benefits of the product?
Yeah, so there's kind of two answers to that question. I think the broader question of why microbiology, it's important to recognize that plants evolved on the planet Earth in complex ecosystems that, they never existed anywhere where there wasn't a complex group of microbial life in the root zone, on the plant's tissues, in nature. So throughout the entire evolutionary period, plants have evolved to develop these really complex mutualistic relationships with bacteria and fungi and other microorganisms. So, that's kind of the broad question. Is a lot of our modern agricultural practices, and certainly when we get into indoor gardening, a lot of that microbiology was left behind because, frankly, early agronomists, and as we developed sort of through the Green Revolution and modern agricultural practices, we just didn't understand microbiology or even understand that it played a role at all. So Yeah, I think in recent years, there's been a real awakening of the understanding, both scientifically and in the growing community, that just the power that microbiology has when you bring that back into your cultivation, bring that relationship back to the plants. Um, yeah, it can have huge benefits. And so to answer the second part of the question, what is microbial mass? What does it do? Essentially, it's made up of 5 very targeted strains of bacteria. They're a bacterial consortium, which means that they work very well together. They don't compete with each other. They don't, produce anything to try to kill each other. They work really well together. And the modes of action they use to help your plant is that they solubilize phosphorus, they solubilize calcium, they increase the bioavailability of iron through a slightly different mode of action, but similar thing, helps the plant uptake iron. They also produce about a dozen extracellular enzymes. So enzymes are, those substances that can help to break down certain materials, cellulose and things like that. So to help to increase the health of the root zone. And they also produce phytohormone that helps a lot with root development and with propagation. So pretty dramatic benefits all the way from basically seed to harvest. I guess that's
just fantastic. And I mean, it's all those benefits packed into that one tiny bottle. So that's the thing, though. You've got all these benefits that it talks about. What about the downsides? Is there something that can happen? A runaway system by adding bacteria? Are there other bacteria that you could interfere with, perhaps?
um, so there's not really a downside, honestly, with microbial mass. It's a very safe product. If you use it as directed, you're going to get a good functional population that's going to help the plant. If you go completely insane, there may be a point, if you use 100 or 200 times what you're supposed to be using, where the bacteria may actually compete with the plant for food resources, but that's not going to happen, given kind of standard practice.
Follow the label, folks.
Yeah, exactly. And as far as interfering with other so if you're running a living soil system or something that's focused on diversity,
Yep.
In general, when we're talking about bacteria, the ones that make good biocontrols are typically not great biostimulants, and vice versa. So the bacteria that we're using are, they're being used for those kind of biostimulant effects. They don't tend to be hostile. They're not producing antimicrobial compounds to kill other things. So they do play fairly nicely with others. But what's great about them is being rough, tough bacillus bacteria. They can survive in a very wide range of conditions, high salt environments, a range of pH and range of different oxygen levels. So you get really good functioning across a really diverse range of systems and setups, which is I think part of the secret to the success of the product is you can add it to just about any kind of cultivation system, and it really does help to increase results.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's not just for organics. Then it is for those who do like using bottle nutrients. And the important thing I think too is make sure that you are just growing. And microbial mass sounds like you can really help benefit that plant. So, talking more then about the different bacteria, there's 5 different types. Could you break them down a little bit and what's in the bottle and what they do?
Yeah, so there are 5 strains, and as I said, they are 5 that are sort of proprietary to our company. They were, harvested from nature, identified and isolated, and those samples, the mother cultures, sort of live in our lab. Um, the way that I like to explain it is, it's not. People get really hung up on this bacteria does this, and this bacteria does this, and this bacteria does this, but I mean, what's kind of cool about our product is that there's no one bacteria that does one particular job. There's multiple bacteria that are producing organic acids to solubilize phosphorus. There's multiple bacteria that produce organic acids that solubilize calcium. There's multiple bacteria that produce siderophores, which are sort of a natural iron chelating agent. That's how iron bioavailability is increased. So they produce siderophores, but they produce multiple different types of siderophore as well. So, and so what's cool about that is you get redundancy. You've got, people wearing the guys on the team are wearing some different hats or playing some different positions. So Some of the bacteria like a higher oxygen environment, so they do really well up at the higher soil horizons. Some of them like a sort of a middle oxygen environment, some like a lower oxygen environment. So you get a good population spread out all the way through the root zone. And it also, it's redundancy, right? So if you've got conditions in your garden where maybe 3 of the 4 microbes or 3 of the 5 microbes or 4 of the 5 microbes are going to do really well, they're still going to do all of those jobs for you. So that's part of that redundancy is part of the reason why it's so useful in such a wide range of gardens. So it's not so much about what each individual bacteria is doing. It's the team putting in that group effort that is really the secret to the success of the product.
That just makes so much more sense, and why it sounds like it would work so well, because you've got those jack of all trades in there, capable to do everything that you need them to do. So what about bringing in a different product, say something like Recharge, which has the microbes and the kelp and the molasses in it? I've not personally used it myself. I've heard lots of people talk about it, but would you use the two together? Would they play nicely if you've got another product that introduces microbiology? Is it a good idea to use them together? What do you think?
Yeah, so I won't speak specifically to Recharge. I'm not very familiar with that particular product. I've certainly heard a lot about it.
Yeah,
Never used it
same.
myself.
Same.
So yeah, I mean, in general, it's Microbial Mass. It does really well when you mix it in with other bacterial products or fungal, other biological inoculants. It
Okay.
does really well because they are a very competitive bacterial consortium. They're rough, they're tough. They can duke it out in a pretty competitive environment.
Okay.
So typically, we say that it's compatible with just about any other kind of biological product that you might want to be using or that you might have success with. Some of those products, their approach is a little bit different where, a lot of products, they might take 20 or 30 different bacteria and fungi and that are all kind of understood to be beneficial and mix them up and throw them together and kind of hope for the best. But in those situations, like often you do have those more biocontrol microbes that are kind of in there to kill other microbes. So, something to think about. That's a job that can be important when you're dealing with pathogen issues and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, there's different ways to build a bacterial product, I guess. And I think kind of going the route of that consortium that works in harmony is a pretty smart way to go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, again, what you're saying just tends to make a lot of sense in how things would work in that system, introduce that diversity and whatnot. Now, as an organic gardener, I like adding that high level of diversity, of course, things like a lab serum, compost teas. Would there be a concern with that, taking and brewing a whole bunch of other biology and adding it in? Or would you think that, say the microbial mass would be enough that I could move away from, say, compost teas and that sort of thing?
No, I think if if you're doing that kind of soil diversity approach, that's the right way to go. That's actually what I do in my growing as well. I brew
Okay.
compost teas. My method is I'll do a compost tea one weekend and microbial mass the next, and go back
Offset
and
it.
forth
Yeah.
like that. And yeah, what's kind of cool with our testing on microbial mass is what we found is actually in that kind of diverse soil ecosystem, when you apply microbial mass and then go back a day and 2 days and 3 days later, we actually see the populations of all of the soil microorganisms increasing, not just the microbial mass. It's kind of one of those interesting ecological phenomena where life brings life. So yeah, it's totally compatible with that type of system. I think that's a great way to grow, and there's a lot of benefits. I would never encourage somebody to decrease their soil diversity. But the nice thing about taking the approach that we've taken with microbial mass is there's a lot of growers who aren't doing that kind of biological approach. It's 6-inch Rockwool cubes or
Right.
expanded clay pellets in a deep water culture system. And microbial mass, it does very well in those types of systems. And, just bringing in that little bit of biology can have really dramatic results without all of the tea brewing and Korean natural farming and all that kind of stuff that a lot of
That's a
growers
rabbit
are
hole.
not going to get into. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's great. I think that, working with the microbiology and seeing the benefits that are there could help those that like more of the synthetic side of things come over and see what organics are all about. And again, no judgment on what you're doing to grow. Just keep growing, because it's the best thing to do. Sugars. I like adding sugar in when I'm watering. I typically do a sugar water about once a week. I'm still trying to find that balance too, because I don't want to add too much sugar and make things go crazy, of course. But what about adding sugars in when I'm doing microbial mass? Would I add in a couple tablespoons of, say, blackstrap molasses?
Yes. So unsulfured blackstrap molasses is a great food resource. It's got simple sugars and some more complex sugars as well. And definitely, if you're using microbial mass or really any kind of bacterial product, it's good to kind of send them into work with a lunch pail. Give them
Nice.
something to eat to get established, to
Yep.
start to reproduce. But as you say, there are some considerations there around dose. So um, again, going back to the research that's been done with our company, we recommend 0.1 to 0.2% application of molasses. That's a good amount. It's a safe amount, because as you say, if you add too much, you can create a bacterial bloom where you get such explosive bacterial growth that they're going to use up the oxygen in the root zone faster than oxygen can dissipate in. And now you're dealing with anaerobic conditions, and
Yep.
just and you're going to have a crash in your bacterial population. Once they have nothing to breathe, they're going to
Up and
suffocate, and
down.
you're going to undo. Exactly. So yeah, sugars are great, but if you're using a carb product that's part of your nutrient line, use as directed. More is not better when you're dealing with microbes. um, so yeah, sugars are great, but use with caution.
Tread lightly. Tread lightly. And again,
Exactly.
follow the label, folks. So let's talk a bit about microbial mass as a company. Then again, how are you being an environmentally sustainable company? What are you doing to reduce your carbon footprint? That type of thing.
Yeah, well, there's a number of things. First of all, the product itself is certified organic, so it's
Absolutely.
there's no harsh chemicals. It's safe to plants, safe to people, safe for the environment. So I think that's definitely a plus. And just because, again, when we're dealing with conventional agriculture and a lot of the approaches that we take to growing, there's a real tendency to over apply nutrients. Phosphorus is particularly a bit of an issue. It's coming from mined sources, so it's sort of a fossil resource, and we only have so much of it. And when we over apply, it's running down the drain, or it's leaching out into the soil, into the water table, into our rivers and oceans, and causing algae blooms and things like that, and all kinds of negative effects. So anything that we can do on the biological side that's sort of a safe and environmentally friendly way to increase the uptake. We want those nutrients in the plant, not running down into the water table. So I think that's it can be a really effective way to solve some of the problems in growing in general. So yeah, I'd say that's kind of our main selling point from an environmental standpoint.
Fantastic. So, speaking of selling, where can I find your products? Are they available worldwide? Is it a Canada only thing?
So at the moment, we are available in hydroponic shops across Canada. We're available in every province. Um, so, if you are in Canada, you shouldn't have to look too far to find it. Uh, as we discussed earlier, 2020 has been a uniquely challenging year with the border
Yes.
closures and everything else. So, not in retail in any other countries as of yet, but you can order from microbialmass.com, and there are some other online sellers. We're able to ship globally, so we've got customers kind of all over the world at this point. And we are making progress toward distribution in other countries. It's just it's a pandemic slowdown. So
Yeah, definitely the world we live in now. So there you go, folks. If you do want to try microbial mass, head on over to their website. And you were talking about a coupon code that they can enter to get a free sample.
yeah, absolutely. We're interested in getting the product out into as many gardens as possible, having people give it a shot, and see the results, share the results with us. So if you do visit microbialmass.com, we've got a product sample section. Use the coupon code ENHANCE, and then you'll just have to pay the shipping to get it to your location.
And I did just that, and I've been using it in my garden with tremendous results. Very, very pleased with the product. That's really what spurred the conversation. Was went in, started using it, and just saw what I was looking for. So I thought, geez, I really got to talk to these guys. Now,
Awesome.
if I guess they, for whatever reason, can't get your product, what would you recommend that they would do to help diversify their soil and add in additional bacteria and biology?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on what kind of approach that you're taking. For guys like so you're doing sort of a living soil organics type of
Correct. Yeah.
setup. So yeah, obviously there are a lot of biologically active products where as long as you're getting a high quality one, good composts and worm castings, high quality insect frass, alfalfa meal, these naturally come with populations of microbes on them. So, building your soil from those material is always a good idea. And charging it up with compost teas and compost extracts is definitely advisable. So, yeah, and then as you referenced, there's definitely a growing number of biological products available kind of from the laboratory side as well. So, yeah, I don't have any in particular that I would recommend, but there's definitely a growing market segment, I would say, around this type of product. So it's kind of an exciting time.
Yeah.
I think that a big part of the future of cultivation is going to be these various ways of introducing the proper biology to increase results. So,
I think that's the way that we have to go, is this regenerative farming, properly maintaining our environment, getting away from the salts and getting more into the microbes. Let them do the work. Feed those guys because they're going to feed your plants with tremendous results. Jeff, I think we've just about come to the end of the interview. How do people find you online?
Let's see. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or you can visit the website. We've got a 1-800 number you can call. You're probably going to get either myself or Frank if you do that. Or you can send us an email, jeff@microbialmass.com or frank@microbialmass.com. We're always available to help with any technical issues or application strategies for a particular system. Or if you just want to call and brag about how well you're doing, we love to hear that too. We love to see people's photos. So yeah, we're pretty available. We're pretty easy to find.
Fantastic. And yeah, you guys were super approachable and easy to chat with when I reached out. And that's the thing, folks. Send some pics. Let them see what you're doing with their awesome product. And if you want to get a chance to try some for total free, Jeff sent me some samples. I'm going to be doing some giveaways over the next few months, so stay tuned to the channel and my website, photosyntech.ca, for your chance to win some. Jeff, thank you so much for joining me today. Fantastic conversation. Absolutely loved learning about microbiology with you and your great product.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. This was fun.
All right, guys, inaugural episode of Meet the Industry. I think it was a hit. Come on back for more. I think next time we're talking to a company that makes a really neat product using clay and glass. Jeff, have a fantastic day. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, buddy.